Now kingdom fungi. This is one of the important kingdom among this. Now see, fungi are heterotroph organism. They also saprophytic. The toadstools are also fungi. Remember. The wheat rust causing pecunia. That is, wheat rust is caused by pecunia. They prefer to grow in warm and humid places. Remember, the fungi are preferred to grow in warm and humid places. Their bodies consist of long, slender, thread-like structure called hyphae. The network of hyphae is known as mycelium. Some hyphae are continuous tubes filled with multinucleated cytoplasm. These are called conocytic hyphae, and others have septa or cross walls in their hyphae. To see, what is hyphae? This is a hyphae, right? Their bodies consist of a slender thread-like structure. This is thread-like structure, and this structure is called hyphae. And if more than one hyphae is present, for example, this one is also hyphae, this one is also hyphae, this whole network is known as mycelium. That is mycelium. Now see, in some hyphae, they are tube-like structure. So see, this is a tube, right? This is a tube, and here multinucleated, many nuclei is present, and this condition is called conocytic. This is conocytic hyphae. And in some hyphae, what happens? They have septa. These are the septa, right? These are septa, and the septa differentiate the whole tube into some segment, and these are called non-conocytic hyphae. Remember, this single one is hyphae, and the network is called mycelium. The cell wall of fungi are composed of chitin. I have already said chitin, and the chitin are polymer of N-acetylglucosamine. Now, the fungi are saprophytes. Now, fungi are also can be in symbiotic form, and that is in association with algae known as lichen, and with the roots of higher plant called mycorrhiza. It is in case of pinus. We will find in the plant kingdom chapter mycorrhiza. Now see, reproduction in fungi is important. Reproduction in fungi can take place by vegetative means. Fragmentation, that means these are the hyphae, these are become fragmented and they form another fungi. This is called fragmentation. Fission and budding, these are the vegetative reproduction, right? Asexual reproduction is by spore. Now remember this name of the spore. Asexual reproduction is by conidia or sporangiosperms or zoospores. Remember, conidia, sporangiosperms or zoospores. These are the asexual spores. And the sexual reproduction is by oospores, ascospores and basidiospores. The oospores, ascospores and basidiospores, these are the sexual reproduction spores. So remember the spores name also. Now see, the sexual cycle involves following the 3 steps. Now the 3 steps, these are important, and these are the steps of the sexual reproduction, and this is slightly confusing, so try to understand. So see, the first is the fusion of the protoplasm between the 2 motile or non-motile gametes called plasmogamy. Then second one is a fusion of the 2 nuclei called karyogamy. Then the meiosis in the zygote result in the haploid spores. So this line is important. I will be say why. So see, first is, for example, this is a spores, this is a spores. Here is the nucleus, here is the nucleus, and haploid, right? These two fuse, this one nucleus, and the fusion of protoplasm is called a plasmogamy. That is first steps. Now these 2 nucleus also fuse to form a single nucleus, that is twice n, right? N, and this stage is called karyogamy, second steps. Now see, this is a zygote, this is actually a zygote. So what happens in case of human being? For example, this is a zygote, twice n. These do mitosis to form a new human being. But in case of fungi, what happens? The zygote that is in twice n state do meiosis to form n, that is haploid organisms, and this is known as haploid life cycle. You will be find in the chapter plant kingdom what is haploid life cycle. And remember, meiosis in zygote. In case of fungi, in zygote meiosis happens. Now see, fungi in ascomycetes and basidiomycetes, an intervening dikaryotic stage, 2 nuclei per cells occurs. Such condition is called dikaryon, and the phase is known as dikaryophase. Now see, in fungi, ascomycetes and basidiomycetes, remember the example, ascomycetes and basidiomycetes, a dikaryon phase is present. Now what is dikaryon phase? So I say here plasmogamy, right? After plasmogamy, the karyogamy occurs, that is fusion of the nucleus. In case of dikaryon phase or dikaryon, the karyogamy does not occur. That means this is a cell fused by two gametes. Here is the nucleus, here is the nucleus. That means two nucleus present in a single cell, and this stage is called dikaryon phase. Remember, the two nucleus are not fused. The morphology of the mycelium, mode of spore formation, and the fruiting bodies form the basics of the division of the kingdom into various classes. So see, what is fruiting bodies? You find this word many times, right? So this is the fruiting bodies. This is a mycelium or hyphae. Now here this structure is called fruiting bodies. Here the spores are formed, and after the maturation of the spores, this all get dispersed, and the spores dispersed by the air current, right? And this structure is called fruiting bodies. This structure. So see, classes of the fungi. First class is the Phycomycetes. The mycelium of this is asepate and coinocytic. That means if this is a mycelium, then it is cylindrical, there is no septa, and a coinocytic means multinucleated. Asexual reproduction takes place by zoospores or by planospores. Remember the spores. Zoospores or planospores. These spores are endogenously produced in sporangium. Endogenously produced in sporangium means this is sporangium. This fruiting body is known as sporangium. Endogenously means inside the sporangium. That means the zoospores and planospores are produced inside the sporangium. A zygospore is formed by the fusion of two gametes. Remember the word zygospore. Important. Zygospore mean fusion by two gametes. Fusion of two gametes produce a zygospore. These gametes are similar in morphology. It is called isogamous, or dissimilar, then it is called anisogamous or oogamous. If similar, they are called isogamous. If dissimilar, they are called anisogamous. The example are important. Mucor, rhizobus, the bread mold. That the bread, in case of bread, the mold here are called rhizobus. And albugo. Albugo is the parasitic fungi on the mustard. So it is also an MCQ. The parasitic fungi on the mustard is albugo. Remember the examples. These are very important, right? Now see, class Ascomycetes. Ascomycetes are commonly known as sac fungi, SAC, sac fungi. Now in Ascomycetes, the penicillium and the yeast included. Yeast are unicellular and the penicillium is multicellular. The scientific name of yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Now this is Saccharomyces and also cerevisiae is present here. Now see, what is coprophilous? Coprophilous means going on cow dung. Remember the word coprophilous. Coprophilous means growing on cow dung. Now see, the mycelium of Ascomycetes is branched and sepate. That means this is mycelium and this is branched. This is branched and have septa. These are the septa, right? These are the septa. So mycelium is branched and sepate. Remember, asexual spores are conidia produced exogenously on the special mycelium called conidiophore. So the asexual spore in the Ascomycetes are the conidia, and they are produced exogenously. Exogenously means outside the mycelium. Remember, this is the conidia, and on the special mycelium called conidiophore, and the mycelium in where the conidia are present are called conidiophore. Now sexual spores are called ascospores, which are produced endogenously in sac like SK, singular ascus. So asexual is the conidia and they are produced endogenously, and the sexual spores are the ascospores and they are produced endogenously. Endogenously means, for example, this is fruiting bodies. Now the ascospores are produced here inside the fruiting bodies. That is endogenously. So remember. Now example, aspergillus. Aspergillus is used in production of citric acid, Aspergillus niger. Then the claviceps and neurospora. These are important because neurospora is used extensively in biochemical and genetic work. Remember, many members like morels and truffles are edible and are considered delicious. Remember these two examples also, morels and truffles, because they are edible and considered as delicious. Now the third class is Basidiomycetes. Now see, the Basidiomycetes are commonly known as mushrooms and bracket fungi. Mushrooms and bracket fungi, also known as puffballs. Remember, mushrooms, bracket fungi and puffballs. Okay. Now the rust and smut rust and smudge are caused by the basidiomycetes. Rust is caused by the piquinia and smut is caused by the ustilago. Remember the example. The mycelium is branched and sepate, this type. So see, the asexual spores are generally not found. So in basidiomycetes, the asexual spores are not found. In case of ascomycetes, the asexual spores are the conidia, but in basidiomycetes, the asexual spores are not found. Also, in basidiomycetes, the sex organs are absent. That means in basidiomycetes, both asexual spore and sex organ are absent. Remember. But the vegetative reproduction by fragmentation is common. By fragmentation, vegetative reproduction can happen. Plasmogamy is brought about by the fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells of different strains or genotype. This is a cell N type and this is a cell N. Plasmogamy means cytoplasm fused and this destroyed the nucleus, and this is dichedon phase, because in basidiomycetes and ascomycetes a dichedon phase is found. Now see, the basidiospores are exogenously produced on the basidium. Exogenously means outside the mycelium. Some common members are agaricus mushroom, then ustilago, smut, and the piquinia causing the rust fungi. So remember the example. Don't confuse among these examples. Try to remember. Important example these are. Now see, fourth class, that is Deuteronomicities. Deuteronomicities is also known as imperfect fungi because the sexual reproduction is absent here. They reproduce only by asexual means or vegetative reproduction. So here the sexual reproduction is absent and hence this is known as imperfect fungi. Now see, the Deuteronomicities reproduced only by asexual spores known as conidia. So in case of Deuteronomicities, the asexual spores are the conidia and this also in the ascomycetes. The mycelium is separate and branched, right? Some members, now examples of the Deuteronomicities are important. These are Alternaria, Colitrichum and the Trichoderma. Remember the example. So try to remember the example as much as you can, because these are the important example, because this is given in NCERT. So NCERT is sufficient. Try to remember all the examples carefully.